So we're back, day 2 with Florian Lauer, to keep going through Instagram questions. Literally, the Von Boden servers were just shut down by the overload of questions flowing in. We had a number of technical issues with just the amount of raw questions for this man. So we're going to continue day 2. Florian, thank you again for joining us.
Hi.
When we were speaking the other day, the Rolling Stones question came up. So now you've had a few days to kind of mull on this. What do you think? And I think the question was something like, what vineyards correlate with what Rolling Stone songs? Go ahead.
Yeah. I thought a little bit about it, and I went back to my music box, and I think Spätlese, for example, the Spätlese Burr number 7 out of the middle part of the Isla Coupe, that would be brown sugar.
Yes, I get
brown
that.
sugar.
Yeah.
And then I thought about. I listened to Mixed Emotions. It's another song.
I don't know.
Mixed Emotions. Hey, go listen. Mixed Emotions. It's like I was not really sure. Is it Unterstenberg or is it Neuenberg? I thought it must be on the foot of the hill, so it could be Neuenberg or Unterstenberg. So
All
those two widgets.
All right.
And what I really think is it's very special is barrel number 2 is coming around the Neuenberg, the middle of the in the middle of the historical Neuberg. Around the Grand Cru Neuenberg, and this is a song which is called Hot Stuff. And it really it reflects a little bit the wine, not so much the vineyard itself, but the character of the wine.
Yeah. Also, too, that's the extra trocken, huh?
Exactly. Bone dry, and I don't know. I had that impression when I listened to the song. I said, "Oh, it must be this one."
This is a good one. A question from @Fleckenstein asks 2 questions. One, when is a Czar wine a great Czar wine? Which I kind of take to be what in your mind is the Czar in terms of wine. And then a kind of follow-up question that's a little more specific to how you work, which is how important is yeast contact? Is that Sir Lee quality for you, and why?
So let's perhaps answer the second question first.
Okay.
The Sir Lee, well, what is the yeast contact? So what I think is the idea of yeast contact. That's first, it's coming back to what our ancestor did, what father and grandfather and great grandfather did. They had very few possibilities to filter, to rack with pumps and whatever. It was a little bit more complicated. You had the gravity, or you had to let's say to pump with an air pump to give pressure on one barrel, and by the air pressure was pressed out of one barrel and was running into another. So very complicated, and so most of the wines had been kept on the yeast for a long time, and they had been racked when they have been clear and nearly clear, and then so on and so on. And you have to imagine the wines. So I suppose that those wines from which had been vinified 100 years ago, they have really had that specific Sur Lie touch, must have been like this. And I think this was very good, because what we do today, we try to give dry wines, especially dry wines, a certain nice melting creaminess, which goes around that sharpened mineral acidity, and by that technique, that Sully or sometimes even with batonnage, so we bring the yeast in suspension again. So those wines they win a lot of complexity. They win balance, and the yeast is responsible for the integration of all different particles or parts of the wine. So acidity, alcohol, sugar, whatever, that's
right.
integrating better with a long yeast contact. And so we're using that especially for the dry wines. For the, I must say, for the off dry and sweet wines, I don't believe that this is a good choice, because it's only it makes sweet wines larger, and this is not what I like.
Yeah. Let me follow up with that, Florian, because I think it's an interesting thing, and we had talked about a little bit about the history of the estate and how dry wines have been made there for a long time, which we will air separately as an upcoming video, so look for that. But when we think back historically in the Czar, your grandfather, great grandfather, etc., we're using extended lees contact. One is just a reality of not having filtration and of wanting the wines to run dry and just having extended barrel age, right? But those lees would act a little bit, if people think of acidity as kind of a live wire, the lees are acting a little bit like that insulation, like the rubber wrapping around.
Exactly. Yeah. They pack in the acidity to be present, to be there, but to be integrated into the rest of the wine. So not staying out like oh, here's the acidity.
Yeah, but
here's
my question.
Part of the mineral side of those wines.
But how is things, so when we look historically and we think about a much cooler climate, right? Even just your grandfather was working in the 50s, 60s. So that presumably we had acids much higher than even today. And so that lees contact would have been, I want to say, almost necessary. Otherwise the wines would have been so painful. So how does that change now with you in terms of working in vintages like 2018, even 2019 a little bit, where your acids are already naturally coming down? Are you doing less lees contact now than you think your grandfather was?
Yeah, I'm doing less yeast counting of those very, very hot years. We rack earlier. We let's say the batonnage process is not that intense because you not because it hurts the wine, but because you shouldn't do it. You shouldn't do it. It's stupid. We have had the experience with 2011. 2011 are wines which had a relatively long yeast contact and a hot vintage at the same time. The dry wines are really great. I'm absolutely a fan of the dry 2011, but the everything what has a little bit more residual sugar, that's starting with the wines slightly above the 9 gram per liter, like 10 to 15 gram already. They today, after 8, 9 years bottle aging, they for me they seem really to be very opulent. So that which is perhaps sometimes it's not bad. Sometimes people like it, and sometimes a specific food fits very well to such a wine or inverse. But it's only a feeling that I wouldn't exaggerate that another time. If I have a warm vintage like 2011.
Fleckenstein is asking, when is the Czar wine a great wine? In other words, what for you? What is
the perfect Czar wine?
Yeah, what is the Czar? And I think this is an important point to make. I have to say, me personally, it pisses me off that the Czar is under the Mosel appellation. Even the fact that it was Mosel-Czar-Ruwer, that pissed me off, because these are such unique places, and the Czar especially is I mean, it is kind of ground zero for Riesling. It's a holy place, and it's so profoundly different than the Mosel. So what for you as a Czar winemaker, as a 48 generation Czar winemaker, what is the Czar to you, and what is a great Czar wine?
The Czar has the ability to to bring out wines which are elegant, which have finesse, even in warm vintages. So that's different to a lot of other regions. The Czar is cooler due to the let's say due to the topography, cooler than the Mosel Valley. It's comparable to the Ruwer. Let's say the Czar and Ruwer, that's building in my head, that's building one unity, and the Mosel Valley from Trier to Koblenz down, that's another unit. And that's due to the topography. The wind can blow relatively intensively in the Saar Valley, which is not the case in the Mosel, because the Mosel is so narrow, so like a very narrow valley, and the wind is blowing from one mountain into the other and doesn't enter into the valley. So that's the main reason why the Saar has that tension between hot slate mountains and a cool breeze, which is usually coming from north and blowing from north to south. The valley is open from north to south or south to north. That's a big advantage, and the best sides are in a 90-degree angle always.
It's a huge point. We'll show it in maps right now, actually. That you have in the Mosel always is overstating it. Most of the time, the vineyards are clinging to the river and have a relationship with the river and the warmer microclimate that creates. And in the Saar, almost always the great sites are perpendicular, so they're running into the river, as it were. And that's true with the Coupe. That's true with this vineyard called
Bockstein, Rausch,
Schwarzhofberg, all of them, right?
The Saar is, in my opinion, the Saar is so small that it's fantastic for us as grower, as a, let's say, perhaps 15 to 20 serious grower in that valley to work very close together. And this is also part of the Saar and the Saar style, and we are developing, I must say, the Saar style and Saar wine together since, I must say, at least 10-15 years. It's a very, very strong, a very intense collaboration. We're meeting every year 2 or 3 times for common tastings. We give advice. One has more experience in, I don't know, concerning sweet wines. The other has more experience concerning dry wines, and so we help each other. And this is a big difference to the most of all viticultural areas in the world, I would say. The Saar is only 10 kilometers long, is 5 kilometers large, and all grower which are today producing wine together with me, parallel with me. We met in the school. We know each other from the kindergarten, so it's really a familiar relation.
I think that's a huge point, is that, and people don't, frankly, I don't think about that much, that the Mosel is, it's 100 miles long and meanders here and there.
Yeah.
And the Saar is just a few kilometers. It is an incredibly intimate place, and it's so small, and the percentage of wine you all make is so small that there is, I think, more of a cooperation there where everyone's trying to lift each other up, because
exactly.
It's that's a huge thing. And the other thing I would just say, the big generality for me, at least, of Saar wine is acidity. That's the thing that defines it beyond
that's the
Mosel,
basic.
Ruwer. Yeah.
The basic, yeah. It's the basic is the acidity, finesse, lower alcohol, nice fruit, nice balance between fruit and steely aspects.
Yeah. Cool.